Hi Sagittarius, welcome to your end of September 2019 General Tarot Update. It's Raina here. Wow. It's funny, I can almost cry because I'm a Sagittarian myself, and I can relate to some of those cards in the top, okay? Because I'm thinking of the last two cards and how hopeful they are. The heart of the matter is the Five of Cups, and this is a card that when I used to watch other tarot readers, before I even had an idea that I was going to do this, I would be like, if that was the first card that was drawn, it would be like, okay, click, click off of that video, or, maybe watch a few minutes, but be like, because I didn't want those kinds of cards. This is a card of grieving the loss of something. And yet, the books point to that the person is turning their back on two cups. So they may be, crying over spilled milk, but they're being pessimistic because they're not seeing that there still is something very good that is in their life, in, whatever it is that's going on. I suspect it has something to do with work efforts. And as I have said more than once to Sag, I've been a little bit surprised about the Jupiter transit in our sign, since Jupiter rules our sign, and we were hyped about how great it was going to be. And I know that I'm not the only one that has experienced it not panning out that way. And Jupiter's about expansion, so sometimes, depending on what your situation or your emotions are like, maybe it magnifies those things, but that's not necessarily an improvement if you're not in a good place. But the thing that I think is very important is like the glass half full or the glass half empty. And usually we are glass half full people, aren't we? What could mitigate that? Well, I have the moon in Virgo. That can be quite critical, perfectionistic. This isn't perfect, so it all sucks. Or if you have inner planets in Capricorn, Mercury in Capricorn, Mars in Capricorn. I have Mars in Capricorn, actually. But Capricorn can be quite, well, first of all, there's a lot of heavy stuff with Capricorn right now. Transits, Pluto in Capricorn, Saturn in Capricorn, the South Node in Capricorn. And for us, this is the second house of earned income. And yes, I mean, it could have an impact on your finances, but even more than that, I think psychologically, or if you want to call it spiritually, that it can impact your, your sense of self-esteem, because the second house can be self-esteem. And that can be, right now, being really challenged, where you are kind of feeling a sense of being tested, especially, I think, with Saturn. And even the South Node, I think, could be a test, karmic test, because when the South Node is transiting a particular house, this is not the time to emphasize that area of life. Doesn't mean ignore it or, shun it, at all, but it just means that the opposite, where the North Node is transiting, is much more important. So in our case, that is the 8th house, which is shared resources. But the 8th house to me is also a spiritual house. It's a house of metaphysics. Somebody put it really well about the 8th house. What did they say? The house of magic. I was like, that's great, because I don't like the word occult, you know. It has been dragged through the mud. There's nothing wrong with the word. It just means hidden, like hidden knowledge. And apparently astrology and the tarot fall into this category, which seems rather absurd since they're anything but hidden. But perhaps back in the day, they were not widely known to the masses. Even the tarot and astrology, who knows? Yeah, so magic. Magic meaning, you know, to me, like alchemy. Taking whatever you have in your life and making it golden. It could be just ordinary things and making them very valuable. In the past position, this was another reason why I was very touched. This is the 8 of Pentacles. You may have tried your hardest to make something work that just wouldn't work. And that has to be the most frustrating experience, because I've experienced that myself. And it's frustrating because we're told that if we try hard enough, things will fall into place, and that doesn't always happen. And you have to accept that. Some people refuse to accept it, and they just keep going, and they keep going, and they just, I mean, finally they give up. But it's not about giving up. You don't want to take it to the point where I give up. You want to surrender. There's a difference. Giving up is like being exasperated and kind of like, you know, you're playing a game and you're not winning, and you just turn the game board over and just stalk off. Excuse me. And sometimes you're trying too hard. And this could be a relationship that you put your all into and you didn't get back the love, the attention that you may have wanted, and it could feel very sad. The higher message is the 7 of Pentacles. This is the farmer's card. You plant seeds and you wait for the harvest. But here's the deal. You don't plant seeds and a couple of months later there's no harvest. But you say, I'm just gonna wait. I'm sure they're gonna sprout any day now. And then it gets to be October, when right before the frost, and you still don't have any crops, and you say, I'm gonna still wait. In other words, there's a limit to patience. You know, that you can't wait forever. It's okay to do that. You know, perhaps too, I mean, in some cases though, it can be that you need to hang in there. Maybe there is like a rough patch, and then it's going to go gangbusters again. So you're grieving prematurely. Maybe this is still, you know, going to produce the harvest, but it's going to be late. It's just like I kept hearing so much about this corn. I live in Illinois, and I've got corn coming out of my ears from the farmer's market last week. So it must have been delayed, but it didn't decimate the crops just because we had a lot of rain early in the spring. So, I mean, I heard all these people, oh, we're going to have a corn, we're not going to have the corn. And that's not true. I can attest to it. And I was buying organic corn. It was pretty darn cheap. So, anyway. What crosses you is the 8 of Cups. leaving what no longer serves you, but this is in the challenge position. Again, with that Seven of Pentacles, for some people, you may be hanging on to something that you tried to make work and it just isn't working. And it's okay to quit, because as long as you're doing it for the right reasons, as long as you're not doing it in terms of like feeling as if you lost something and like you're just, I completely give up, I'm walking away, and there's that sense of like loss. But if you're saying, I'm not going to do this anymore because I don't feel like it resonates with me, then that is the right reason. Or I'm taking a break in my life in general, and I'm going off on a spiritual quest. I'm going to maybe a specific type of, like a country that is associated with these kinds of pilgrimages. Going to India, going to Bali, going to, that, whatever that thing is where you walk, the Camino, I can't think of the name. I'm sure some of you know what I'm talking about. Where it's like some kind of a trip. I think it's in Spain. But if you're doing that, that's for the right reason. Some people find it hard to leave, and they are hanging on. If you have Taurus prominent, I have Taurus rising, but especially if I have the moon in Taurus, that can be because then your emotions are engaged and you refuse, or maybe moon in Scorpio, refuse to kind of like give up that fixed, stubborn, emotional nature. I'm going to see this through, even though you've been trying. And really with the Five of Cups is feeling that sense of grief. Understanding that your efforts, the Eight of Pentacles, may have not yielded what you wanted, the Seven of Pentacles. But that doesn't mean that all is lost. That is the important thing. Those two cups are still up. There's a silver lining there somewhere. And the last two cards to me are the silver lining. What's coming in is the Sun card. Maybe when you least expect it, you will find the love of your life. And perhaps I think, I say this, I've said this before, going back to that Eight of Pentacles. If you have to try, some people say, I'm working on my marriage. And I always say, if you have to really work on it, chances are there is like some serious, something seriously like incompatible between the two people, that they're trying to bridge the gap by maybe marriage counseling and, being trained on how to respect their differences. And I'm not against marital counseling, but when there's a lot of a need for working on something, it could mean that you're trying to make something that is basically not aligned to become like it is, to become aligned. And that's something to look at, because it could indicate that you're trying too hard and it's not going, the more that you try to force things, the more resistance you might be met with. That's why I say with the Eight of Cups, it's like the surrendering to the reality of the situation and being okay with it. It's not just enough, because really the Five of Cups can be surrendering to the situation, but feeling this enormous sense of loss. And the Eight of Cups is about, I guess this isn't meant for me right now, and I'm going to try to find meaning in life. And the Sun card is about healing, love, prosperity, success, joy. So basically every positive thing. Could be a timing card. Maybe it's saying, you know, wait until the sun comes, you have your solar return, things will right themselves. Even though that's going to be when Jupiter leaves Sag and goes into Capricorn. I honestly believe that everybody is going to feel better when Jupiter goes into Capricorn, because Capricorn is an earth sign. And so the benefits, the whatever you want to call them, are much more tangible with Capricorn, especially for Sag. It's the second house. It's this house of income, money. We can just boil it down to money. So that might brighten your mood. We have a solar eclipse in December in Capricorn, and Jupiter will be right there. And just other things, other factors. The Sun card can be like you coming into your own, perhaps. Maybe you've been trying to lead a life that is somebody else's dream and not your own. And you had to experience this kind of, I don't know if I call it loss, but difficulty. And yes, maybe it is very challenging, but the truth is that it could be extremely, it could lead to really happy times in the near future for you, because you made space for it. You know, they say when you let something go, nature abhors a vacuum, and that allows something else to come in, and maybe it'll be something that is genuine, not something that is forced. I guess what I see with the Eight of Pentacles is kind of forcing things, thinking that you can apply enough effort onto something. And with the Cups, it could be like personal relationships, but even like something that is very, if it's like your business, you can't force emotions. And so maybe you haven't been feeling it, lately. And you have to rebrand, regroup, what have you. But success is at hand. And the outcome, the Judgment card, rebirth. And also, what I think about the Judgment card, too, is the idea of maybe finally your ship will come in. Where all those things that you did with the Eight of Pentacles, they were never lost. You had to really invest energy into something, and maybe you weren't able to realize it in a certain type of scenario, but it's still going to come back to you in a positive way. And, this could be like financial gain, too, because Eight of Pentacles is a card of financial abundance and, power. The number 8 is a power number. And I recently found out that the number 8 connects to Saturn. And so there again, I didn't think about this, but yes, Saturn in Capricorn, Saturn going direct tomorrow. Maybe that'll be part of it too. And so it's never lost. If you have been, a person of integrity, Sag, and you have diligently applied yourself, I would say that for the Eight of Pentacles, that you will see your harvest. And maybe, with the Sun card, it will come perhaps, especially in December, might be your solar return, which is going to be late November, but perhaps the day after Christmas. Maybe the Christmas present will come late, the day after Christmas, having a solar eclipse in the house of money for you. So chin up, You know, don't be like the Five of Cups and have your head hanging low. Keep your chin up and kind of like gauge your efforts. If you feel like you have really kind of busted your ass, oops, I didn't mean to say that, but your butt, and you have done a lot of work on something and you haven't seen the results, the Sun card is that your ship will come in. Maybe it's a little bit late coming into the port, but don't allow despair to get the best of you. Brighter days are ahead. And I love being able to say that. I was like, when I first saw those first few cards, I was like, oh man. Not the Eight of Pentacles, that's actually a very good card, or even the Seven of Pentacles. But I just, the Five of Cups, you know. And it's hard, you know. Life is very interesting. The fact that we don't know what's going to happen is actually fun, because it's like kind of like we're living in a novel and we're like, okay, what's going to happen next? But you have to be like what Sages are supposed to be. You have to be optimistic, even when things seem like they're going to hell in a handbasket, and realize, you know, here comes the sun, you know, here comes the sun, and all those things that you were waiting for can still come to you. Eventually, you know, eventually. Okay, that's what I have for you, Sag. If you'd like a personal reading, the link is below. Have a great rest of September. Take care. Bye.